And we are back on FreightWaves now, and we've got our next guest. It's FreightWaves' own Danny Gomez. Now, Danny and I haven't actually had the chance to formally introduce ourselves, so I'm going to do that right here. Hi, Danny.
Hi. I saw you running through the office the other day, so
yeah,
nice to.
That was it.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure we're talking about last week's NetZero Carbon Summit. Is that correct?
That is right. Yeah, and we had a great summit. It's the second one that we've done. I wanted to talk a little about the motivation behind pulling these things together. So when we did the first one last year, it was really the start of our journey on understanding what our role is in sustainability. And so it's always good to stop, to bring people together. What I always talk about, what's happening in regards to reducing emissions in transportation and really across all industries, is that we're creating this community of collaborators. Some that are competitors, some that are in industries adjacent, but we're all trying to lock arms together to come and really solve this global problem and create sustainable industries that can ensure that our kids' kids have a world to live in that we want them to be in. And so each year, having this moment, it's obviously important for us to do it on Earth Day and take a pause, and across the world, everyone's doing this. The summit for us was really good because it highlighted a lot of the things that we've learned, and that we tried to, when Tyler and I were coming up with the agenda, try to think about how we see things happening in transportation and pull to the surface a lot of technologies and experts that we've had the pleasure of working with over the last year. So the benefit is that, like every live summit that we do, that we create the content. We hope that people show up on the day. We also make it available on demand. I know the team's working to pull that together, so people who didn't see the summit can come in and view it afterwards. I want to go real quick through all the awesome things that we were able to pull in. So I started off the day with a keynote fireside chat with Dan Lewis and Joy Tuffield. Dan is from Convoy, and Joy is from Generation investment management firm that focuses on sustainability. And that really kicked off the day. And everyone's talking about, things that they're doing, but also how it relates to each other. And you go through this list, I'm just reading it real quick. Mark Yeager, CEO of Redwood, talking about their sustainability efforts. Josh Ragland, Norfolk Southern, so we're switching it into rail to talk about their efforts as well. Esther from the Sustainable Freight Buyers Alliance, so that's the Smart Freight Center, which is really setting the standard for how we measure and how we collect and share data. So that's a big part of the challenge ahead of us, is data sharing. Trax is so Jakob Moos, who's one of our partners working on understanding what we can do for reducing emissions and helping people footprint. You have the TCA, XPO Logistics. A really cool interview with One Tree Planet and Freight Vana on, just creating more green freight, as I'll call it. Locomotion CEO, Alan interviewed Larry Burns to talk about autonomous vehicles. Then we had Jonathan interview Andrew Wishnia from the DOT. And Grace interviewed Ray, the Chief Information Officer from AIT, talking about how to build sustainable strategy within your organization. So you look at this list, it's really thoughtfully laid out, and I really encourage people to, once the content's ready, to dive back into it.
I think very excited. Also, a special shout out to Convoy and their partnership for helping us with the Net Zero Carbon, as well as their support. Looking at, I got to go check out the new Nikola truck at Covenant, and there's a lot of buzz. You can kind of feel this energy in terms of green and sustainability. Have you seen any of that, or is there anything that you're particularly looking forward to, especially on this green energy and sustainability route?
Yeah, I think that's a really good example, right, where Covenant's looking at taking a step, right? And I think in these partnerships, one of the things to remember is that these early days, it's not about scale yet. It's about kind of feeling our way through how these technologies can be brought to market, which areas are good for us to make these investments. And what is happening, right, is this groundswell of desire, whether that's social desire to do it, whether it's capital markets signals to the companies to make these investments. But everyone has, from a body language posturing perspective, has really opened themselves up to these ideas and are starting to test these things out. And that's the exciting thing. I think doesn't happen really quick. I think we're going to understand, firms are starting to understand better what are the low-hanging, tangible things that they can do. Convoy does a really good job of talking about efficiency and reducing empty miles. On the interview I did with them, Joy talked about investing in companies that are doing things now, and knowing that there's, in this journey, or this race, as I like to call it, that we're going to be doing things and learning as quickly as we can, and we're continuing to refine. New technologies will come in, but I think some of the focus is don't look so far out in the future, to keep your eyes, on things that are already within your reach, or that are just, you can see the implementation coming. So when I think of things that fall into that camp, what's in our control now is being more efficient. So finding efficiencies within our network. What is already coming in, but probably early stage, are things like hydrogen or EV or renewable fuels, or different types of alternative fuels. And so there's so many options that are out there, and it's thinking about doing the things that we can control now, and then preparing and doing these pilots to test the technologies that are just right here on our doorstep.
We talked about collaboration and partnerships a little bit earlier on in the show, and having all these companies come together, these organizations, for the summit. How important do you think it is to have something like the summit where groups can come together and really talk about things like this?
I think it's great for everyone to see all the efforts that are going on. The summits are good because the virtual summits specifically, they're good because we're able to highlight a lot of different things very quick. In-person events are around the corner. We're going to have one in Northwest Arkansas that everyone should sign up for. Those things will be also great opportunities, because then it brings us together, right, and having more collaborative conversations. The virtual ones are great for highlighting what's going on, and for allowing people to then reach out to each other and to talk about partnership, collaboration opportunities. And then FreightWaves also, and I think this is happening at large across a lot of different parts of our industry and others, are working groups or associations. So FreightWaves has its own working group where we highlighted them during the summit. We have shippers, carriers, brokers coming together to talk about how they are dealing with the challenges of reducing emissions, and those conversations and collaborations are super important as well. It's very interesting. I mean, I brought up in the interview that I did, because just that day I was on Instagram and I had seen an ad for a shoe collaboration, and I think it was Allbirds and Adidas had come together to collaborate on a zero emissions or net zero shoe that it had on the footprint, or on the tongue of the shoe, like the exact materials that went into it, what the carbon impact was of it, and then they're offsetting those impacts as well. And so you think about collaboration, and it's interesting, right? It's collaboration with competitors in some instances. So I think that's super powerful. We can only get better together and in collaboration. So that's really embraced by the folks who are trying to do better.
I like we're talking about collaboration. That was the coolest thing I heard, even with the EV stuff. The customers would say, how much does it take? I know I may be losing money, but I want this in my warehouse. And I think that when you're talking about collaboration, trucking has historically not been considered a collaborator. It's normally a transportation cost. Why am I paying you so much? And now, like what you're saying, we're starting to see the trend and the narrative change to, I want to have my CPG goods, I want to have my stuff 100% green. Well, I'm going to go with the fleet that's getting the electric vehicles. I think, are you seeing that as well, kind of this change? It used to be antagonistic in the supply chain. Now the supply chain's thinking, hey, we could all profit off of this and do better at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. And Dan brought up a great example of where taking their lessons learned in their technology and then using that and providing that as tools for other brokers that they traditionally compete with to use the same tools that they're using to create more efficiencies in their network, and then using that to stitch together a collaborative system of transportation providers that are all trying to be more sustainable, and then giving that broader network availability to the shippers. And so that's those types of collaborations, or just the thought process, the change of like not being so guarded to understanding and not being afraid of inviting people in to have a conversation that you historically probably wouldn't have.
Danny, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Before we go, let us know where viewers can find more information and maybe more net zero carbon info.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing every Friday, we have a podcast or show that goes live at 1 p.m. Eastern. And on that, we have a bunch of interviews that we'll be airing and more that we're recording. We encourage folks who are interested in highlighting their technologies to reach out to us. You can always reach me at dgomez@freightwaves.com. And then we have, if you go to freightwaves.com, you can find our sustainability page and net zero carbon page. And on that has all of the episodes that we have ever recorded, as well as a bunch of great content that is written by Alyssa. And so feel free to connect with us that way. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. And then we'll be posting the videos from the summit here shortly.
Once again, Danny, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to head to the break, and we'll have more coming up next with FreightWaves Now.